Hello and welcome to Under the Superscope, where we take a look at some of the most famous games of all time and try to work out if they still hold up today. And this week we're looking at one of the greatest uses of the Super FX chip. Sorry Andre, not that one. The good one! Unlike a lot of other games that utilize the chip, Yoshi's Island doesn't attempt to push the Super Nintendo to do 3D. Instead, it uses it to push the boundaries of 2D. We see effects in Yoshi's Island that we often wouldn't see until the next generation on the Sega Saturn. It's a phenomenal looking game that marries beautiful artwork and impressive effects such as sprite scaling and rotation. These aren't just gimmicks either. The entire game benefits from these visual enhancements, and it allows for unique gameplay possibilities such as enemies that change in size, platforms you can morph, and environments that warp around. Despite its advanced visuals, Yoshi's Island still has an art style aimed to draw in a younger demographic. So while there are Super Nintendo games with many more frames of animation, Yoshi's Island seems to deliberately limit itself to just keyframes. Keyframes are the strongest poses in an animation, and games that aim for a higher level of visual fidelity will often fill in the blanks between each keyframe. Yoshi's Island though is quite limited and only has 2 frames in its run cycle. What this produces is a very fast and energetic effect. You'll often see this replicated in children's cartoons. More frames of animation doesn't always make for a more pleasing image, and in many instances it can make what's happening on screen feel slower. And you may think with the Yoshi games being slow, wouldn't that be something they wish to strive for? And that's the thing, Yoshi's Island isn't exactly a slow game. You're always changing direction to explore every nook and cranny, but the pacing isn't as mellow as many of its successors. In fact, there's a ton of differences between the original and the sequels. Yoshi's Island of course builds upon the foundation of Super Mario World. This is Super Mario World 2 after all, even though I'm sure no one calls it that. However, in terms of level design, the two couldn't be more different. Super Mario World carries on the standard set in Super Mario Bros. 3, where each level is home to a unique idea. In one, you may be riding a rotating platform, with the premise gradually evolving with more enemies and less space to move. In another, you may be jumping from platform to platform with a bed of water beneath you and enemies intercepting. This has since become an age-old design standard of which we can see in many of the greatest games ever. Unique idea, develop, iterate, and move on. Yoshi's Island, on the other hand, takes a slightly different approach. Levels often don't have but one unique idea, they have several. This level starts off with chain chomps jumping from the background and demolishing the foreground, then a maze-like area to find collectibles, a helicopter transition, and then a final callback to the start of the level. The majority of Yoshi's Island stages have 3, 4, or even 5-point level design, but mechanically these ideas don't always blend into each other, and there may be a logical reason for this. It takes a while to finish a Yoshi stage. Your average Mario World level can last anywhere from 1 to 3 minutes, whereas you're looking at 10 to even 20 for a single stage in Yoshi's Island. That's not only because levels are longer than that of Mario, but you're constantly incentivized to play them slower. Of course, every level has 20 red coins and 5 flower petals, but that's not the only encouragement. There's Baby Mario. Many players don't like the inclusion of Baby Mario because they find his cry is incredibly annoying, but I kinda think that's the point. It's a way for the developer to say, play carefully or we'll shout at you. That's actually one element I think Yoshi's Island has but other games don't. A feeling of dread. The Yoshi games are meant to be calm and relaxing with their bright visuals and jolly music, but you can only be so relaxing before reaching the point of boredom. Here's a crudely drawn difficulty chart. Ideally, we always want to be within this line here. If we start off all the way up here, we'll likely frustrate the player and cause them to give up. Likewise, if the difficulty flatlines, then we'll bore the player and cause them to stop too. There needs to be an element of challenge, just keep your brain going. And that's not to say the Yoshi game should try and be Dark Souls, but it is to say it's okay to try and kill the player every now and then. There's tons of room to explore and areas to pillage, but there's also plenty of enemies that can ruin your playthrough in an instant. There's pits and spikes that can kill you instantly, and the threat of Baby Mario floating away upon collision. These risks mean that while you're leisurely looking around and searching for collectibles, you do so knowing it can all be taken away in a moment if you let your guard down. That's what keeps you playing slowly. Interestingly, the sequels adopt a different approach to level design. Woolly World, for instance, is far more traditional and is designed in the vein of Super Mario World. One gimmick, evolved, iterated, concluded. There's also far fewer pits, resulting in less chance for insta-death. And if you really struggle, there are badges, and one of them can make you bounce out of pits. You can also enable mellow mode and simply fly around. These options are great for accessibility, but whether they're effective counterbalances for challenge is something that's up for debate. Woolly World is not a tricky game as it is, and with the absence of Baby Mario, you lose that encouragement to play slowly. What this means is if you happen to die, will you go around and collect everything again? If you're like me, you'll likely just storm to the end. The original Yoshi's Island reinforces the slower play style with its higher challenge and integral mechanics, but that doesn't stop losing collectibles from being frustrating. It's fun the first time to go around looking for everything, but until you hit a checkpoint, all that stuff is just waiting to be lost. And while the sequels have gotten rid of Baby Mario, and added him again, and gotten rid of him again, and added him again, and so on and so forth, not a single one has changed the collectible system. You die, you lose them. While I think Yoshi's Island is the best of the bunch, this is the element I think needs changing. Obviously, we still want to maintain the sense of dread and slow gameplay, but we also want to alleviate the will to give up. Now, two solutions come to mind for fairly maintaining items. Number 1, Souls. Yep, now Yoshi is Dark Souls, but let's mix it up to make it a bit broader. Shovel Knight, Hollow Knight, Dark Souls. What these three games do is give you a second chance to reclaim your items upon death. You simply march back to your place of death if you can and pick up your drop baggage. If you die before getting there though, they're gone for good. This means you're still in danger, but you don't have to waste time collecting everything again, and you're still playing slowly as to not die once more. And then there's the second method, Celeste and Rayman. These two games do an interesting thing of ensuring you're grounded with an item for a few seconds before giving it to you. You may have grabbed a strawberry in a gauntlet of platforming challenges in Celeste, but it's not yours until you touch the ground. The same with these coins in Rayman Origins and Legends. This may not work in the sense of Yoshi, as when you die it will leave the level a little empty, but I like this approach to collectibles. It may be a good method for the flower petals. I think mixing these two ideas together can result in a better paced experience. Yoshi needs challenge, but the traditional death and life system for Mario isn't necessarily the answer. From what we saw of Yoshi on Switch, there wasn't a single pit, so they're likely not doing this and going the Woolly World style of difficulty again. Then again, it has been over a year since we've seen the game, so who knows what's going on. Regardless of that though, Yoshi's Island is still an incredible game that's just bursting with ideas. In fact, all the way up to the final world, every level has a new enemy to introduce. Every single one. We don't even see Goombas until World 4. That's how many enemies there are. So yeah, the base gameplay is about turning enemies into eggs and finding items on your way to the goal, but it builds upon that foundation in so many wonderful ways. One level has you pushing a ball along, which gives you a burst of catharsis as you crush a bunch of enemies. Another has you... well, this happens. And then there's the awesome boss battles that take the prominent enemy of that level and supersize them. While being geared to slower play, Yoshi's Island's pacing is a roller coaster. One level is this, then it moves to this, and then this. There's no room for downtime, and with the constant introduction of new enemies, the game always manages to feel new. This is where many of the sequels feel flat. Island yes and New Island were essentially recreations of the original game. They even went as far as to redo the same level gimmicks but doing them worse. Yoshi's Island even has the core gimmick of New Island being giant eggs. Only it keeps the idea around for one level rather than dragging it out for an entire game. Not necessarily a jab at New Island there, but rather many of Yoshi's Island's core ideas could indeed form a game all of their own. Yoshi's Island was an extremely influential game and actually shaped future Mario titles more drastically than you may expect. Elements like the butt stomp and red coins would be found once more in Mario 64, and then again in New Super Mario Bros. With the addition of hidden walls, Kamek spells, and the bubble. Heck, even one boss fight seems to have set the premise for Galaxy. And that one level from Mario U everyone loves? Bam! It's an ambitious, inventive, and constantly evolving collection of ideas. And while not all are winners like these annoyingly slow auto-scrolling caves, the higher moments heavily outweigh the lesser. I mean, the bosses are flat out some of the best in Mario history. It can get surprisingly dark at times too. I mean, obviously Yoshi flat out eats everyone and then turns them into an egg. And there's even an enemy that eats you, and you have to destroy them from the inside. Heck, Yoshi does this again by beating on the heart of an enemy multiple times. Poor guys. The egg throwing mechanic is utterly ingenious though. Every enemy essentially doubles as ammunition, and the way eggs ricochet off walls ensures that even the lesser skilled players have a chance of landing hits. This mechanic even gets reinforced like with bosses that only appear when facing away from them, or with tricky item placements that demand you to play a little game of tennis. It's such a refined game mechanically and truly expands upon the basis of Super Mario World while giving you a slower playground to digest the many more elements at play. Despite its upbeat aesthetic, Yoshi's Island portrays a range of emotions as, all in all, this is a journey of overcoming a Bowser-invaded island, even if he's just a baby this time. The music perfectly captures the sense of wonder, happiness, and sorrow. To look at Yoshi's Island and just say, that's a happy kids game, would frankly be close-minded. Later games like Yoshi's Story doubled down on the younger demographic with accompanying low-level challenge, but that isn't Yoshi's Island at all. In fact, with it releasing less than a year before Mario 64, Yoshi's Island feels like Nintendo were putting in one last hurrah with 2D on a console. All the stops were pulled, and the result is something that shows how 2D and 3D can exist side by side. Of course, 2D would make a comeback, and Yoshi even remained 2D on the N64, but in the time of transition, this could have been it. And if it were, 2D would have gone out with a bang. Every mechanic, every idea, every hidden crevice feels like a triumphant farewell to the second dimension, even as much as for the developers to thank the players for finding the game's secrets. There's even the inclusion of Super Mario Bros. 2 characters like Shy Guys. Yoshi's Island was the culmination of everything that came before, with the ideas to elevate them to new heights. Many consider Yoshi's Island to be a better game than Super Mario World, and while I don't know if I would go that far, it's hard to deny just how mesmerizing and influential it was. Sure, the death system could do with some modern refinements, but it has something none of its sequels even come close to matching: a feeling of challenge and adventure. Yoshi games are meant to be calming, but there needs to be a challenge to keep you engaged, and Yoshi's Island nailed it on the first try. It's no doubt one of the best games on the Super Nintendo, and reinforced that progression of every Mario game being conceptually different to the last, something that we could maybe see a bit more of in the modern era. Yoshi's Island still absolutely holds up. Going for a 100% completion can be a tad frustrating, but every single level is masterfully designed, to the point where this wholesome little dinosaur rivals the plumber perched on his back. Just remember, this is the end, and nothing comes after it. So what do you think of Yoshi's Island? Is it still the best Yoshi game? Let us know in the comments below, and of course be sure to subscribe to GameXplain for far more from Under the Super Scope and other things gaming too. Until next time, bye!